Hello and welcome back to another video. Is it worth buying and upgrading a vintage mountain bike? While I can't flat out say yes or no, today I'll be going over my vintage mountain bike project Teal Steel right here behind me and sharing what I've learned about this experience, how much the total project cost me, and if I think it's personally worth it, coming up.
It's Teal. It's Steel. It's Project Teal Steel. Don't ride it much. Can't face it yet. Like a dad who left for cigarettes. Now I'm back just for a bit. Don't get used to it, 'cause I can't commit.
This is my 1988 Specialized Hard Rock that I bought in January of 2018. It looked more like a basic city bike when I got it, but I had the vision of turning it back into a mountain bike with both retro and modern features. I also wanted to use this bike to learn more about working on bikes, and it's taught me a lot about home bike maintenance. Over the next several months, I built this bike into what it is today, but then it just sat there. I honestly haven't rode this bike in over a year, but I've always wanted to discuss this project in more detail. So today we're out at the Mission Trails. We're gonna cruise around, talk about this bike. Well, that was the original plan, but when I reviewed the footage from filming for hours outside, the audio was just terrible. So I'm back in my house now, refilming the dialogue, so this video is somewhat watchable instead of complete trash. So let's go ahead and jump right in and talk about how much this project cost me. I purchased the bike itself for $70, and the first upgrade I put on this bike were these WTB Velociraptor tires for $50. I actually went and rode the bike like this at my local trails, and it performed admirably for $120. I'll leave a link to that video up here if you want to check that out. But then I went a little crazy on the upgrades. New stem, $29.45. Quill stem adapter, $17.99. New race face handlebar, $29.74. This front brake cable hanger, $14.80. These ESI pink grips, $19.05. New brake levers, $15.94. Race face Chester pedals, $46.74. Two pink bottle cages, $8.63. New brake cables, $9.42. New shift cables, $14.99. FSA narrow wide chainring, $35.03. Chainring bolts to install it, $6.80. A new bottom bracket, $26.44. New chain, $14.84. And probably the coolest upgrade, this pink Simpson saddle, for $24.99. My grand total so far for this bike is $434.85. That is way over budget because this was supposed to be a cheap build. That's the thing about this bike, because it is so cheap, I don't want to put brand new parts on it and spend, I don't know, $300-400 on a bike that's worth $50. This doesn't even account for the tools I had to buy to work on this bike, so with $49.78 worth of tools factored in, my grand total to have this retro ride is $484.63. For $500 I could have gotten a much more modern bike, or even a brand new entry-level hardtail. So was it worth it? And to determine that, I figured I would discuss some things these bikes are really good at, and some things they're not so great at. So the first thing these bikes are great at, they are super fun. With the chromoly steel frame, no suspension, lightweight, this thing is an absolute blast to ride. It's quick, nimble, and feels surprisingly solid for a 32-year-old bike. On basic flowy trails, this thing absolutely rips. It's fun to go back to 26-inch wheels, dance with tight switchbacks, then sprint out of the corners with no hesitation. These bikes strip away the fancy comforts of a new bike and leave you feeling a bit more connected to the trail. It's truly a time portal to mountain biking's roots, and I strongly suggest everyone tries one at least once. They offer new perspectives and challenges. Ever felt bored on your local trails? They aren't necessarily getting any easier, but bikes have just gotten a lot better. It's easy for anyone to swing a leg over a $5,000 carbon full suspension trail wrecking machine and then yawn at their local trails. But taking out a vintage mountain bike completely changes the game. I've ridden McAllister Park hundreds of times with these, but on Teal Steel, every trail's difficulty was amplified. No dropper post, no suspension, cantilever brakes, and near nut-busting geometry all adds up to an exhilarating and challenging ride.
Oh my God.
Would I want to bring this bike to Moab or Whistler? Probably not. But to breathe life into some easy to intermediate trails? Hell yeah! Alright, so I've magically teleported to my garage for this section, and I'm holding this tool for credibility, but these bikes are easy to maintain, with no suspension to service, no hydraulic fluids to mess with, or no wireless shifting, anything like that. These vintage mountain bikes are very simple machines. They're really simple to work on, and I think anyone would feel comfortable fixing this bike at home. Now let's kick it back over to the outdoor windy dialogue. That was supposed to be a joke with big payoff, and because I decided to scrap the windy footage, there's no funny moment here. It wasn't that funny to begin with, but next section, customization potential. With these old bikes being so cheap, they're a great platform for custom builds. Put some road tires and riser bars on it, and you've got a dead reliable city commuter. Add some drop bars and gravel tires, you've got yourself a cheap gravel grinder. Turn it into a single-speed urban brawler. The possibilities are endless. With being fun, cheap, easy to maintain, and being tough, it's easy to see why these bikes are great for many different applications. I'm happy to see these bikes receive the attention they deserve, although it may not be for their original intended purpose. They're cool. I love the look of these old mountain bikes, and so do a lot of other people.
Thanks. That young man said he liked my bike.
Teal Steel is the bike most people talk to me about on the trails. This thing just oozes pure nostalgia, and it's a cool reminder how far mountain biking's come in the last 40 years. I also wish bikes were still painted like this. These bright, vibrant colors truly capture the fun spirit of mountain biking, and I think they look far more unique than modern bikes. There, I said it. It's just a rad feeling enjoying a bike created during the dawn of the sport that we love. That's a lot of positives for these bikes, but we do need to address what these bikes aren't so great at. Alright, so the first thing these things aren't so great at is mountain biking. I know, I said earlier that these things are a ton of fun on easy local trails, and they are, but I don't think they're the best for all trails. With modern trails being built with bigger jumps, gnarlier features, and faster descents, it becomes clear where these bikes don't shine. These rim brakes don't offer any reassurance even on the smallest descents, so going down something like Horseface at Windrock is completely out of the question. Would you want to hit Dirt Merchant at Whistler on this thing? My guess is no, but I'm sure there's someone somewhere that's done it, and they can't wait to get in the comments and tell me how I'm wrong. These bikes weren't built or designed with the idea of sending 30-foot gap jumps, so they may not be up to the abuse that a modern bike is.
I guess those stairs were a little rough. Lost my chain there. No clutch.
These bikes are an absolute blast off-road, but in reality, they're only designed for so much trail usage. Upgrades as a mountain bike. Again, I know I mentioned the customization potential earlier and I sound like I'm contradicting myself, but please hear me out. While I did upgrade a lot on this bike, there was a lot that I had to leave original because the standards have changed. The brakes, cranks, wheels, and seat posts, just to name a few. With mountain bike standards always changing, it can be difficult to try and keep this bike modern. 26-inch wheels are few and far between. You can't put disc brakes on this bike. Yes, you could probably weld disc brake mounts onto it, but again, the average person doesn't have that skill. Tubeless technology didn't exist, and options for 26-inch wheels that are tubeless compatible and run a rim brake, your choices are pretty limited, and it's definitely hard to source parts such as a suspension fork for a threaded headset. While not impossible to find these things, it's probably not worth the money. I originally wanted to make this bike a 1x10, but the current rear wheel uses a freewheel instead of a cassette. So to make this a 1x10, I would need a new rear wheel, new cassette, new derailleur, and a new shifter. Say I did add a suspension fork and maybe an externally routed dropper post. If I did all that, this project could have easily cost near $1,000. Even if I did all those extra upgrades, this bike still could not hang with a modern mountain bike. If you are willing to spend $1,000 on a vintage bike, I would strongly recommend saving that money and putting it towards something a little bit newer. Progression. I debated even putting this section in the video because I know it's more about rider skill than the bike itself. A talented rider or professional can literally ride anything and make it work, but for this discussion, I'm referring to the average person. If you handed a brand new mountain biker Teal Steel, do you think they would love mountain biking? My guess is they would be terrified and find another hobby. Now hand this same person a modern full suspension mountain bike, and they'll probably feel confident and inspired. I'm not saying beginners need to purchase a very expensive bike, I'm just saying modern geometry, suspension, disc brakes, wheel size, and all that plays a big factor into a new rider's confidence. Many of us did start riding on a bike similar to Teal Steel, but think about how much easier your progression would have been if you started on a modern bike. Yes, these older bikes do teach you better habits about line choice, but I think a modern bike will give you more confidence to progress further. Cost. I went a little overboard on this bike with the build. I could have just enjoyed this bike with the upgraded tires and left it at that. The sheer joy of working on this bike and buying parts blinded my common sense to the budget. Don't let that happen to you. With it being 30 years old, you have to factor in the cost of maintenance that probably hasn't been done in 15 to 20 years. Bottom bracket service, headset service, fresh cables, a new chain, repacking the wheel bearings, etc. These things all add up fast. So if you are thinking about a vintage mountain bike for yourself, please consider all those costs as well. All these upgrades I did don't really add much value to the bike, so unfortunately for me, there's no way I'll be able to recoup the money I put into this bike. I learned the hard way, so you don't have to. That isn't to say you shouldn't do a project like this if you are passionate about it and you want to spend the money. More power to you. So who is this bike for? Well, almost for anybody depending on what you want to do with it. If you're planning on just riding it around town or doing some simple trails every now and then, these bikes are a great value for that. Even for being 10, 20, 30 years old, these bikes are built far better than a Walmart bike, and you can easily find them for under $100. These bikes are also great for collectors who want to restore them and have the financial means and knowledge to do so. Even if they don't get ridden, it's great to see these bikes being restored to their former glory. They're also great for experienced riders who know what they're getting into. They're a ton of fun on local trails, and as long as you can fix anything you might break on it, they're great to have as a secondary bike when you want a change of pace. I would not recommend these kind of bikes to someone brand new to mountain biking or to someone who doesn't know or want to maintain an old bike. They might get the impression that mountain biking is too difficult or costly to continue with. For a brand new person, I'd recommend getting something a little bit more modern. Obviously, you don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars, but find something that's within your budget and also has features that you can grow with. Features such as 29-inch wheels, 27.5-inch wheels, disc brakes, tapered head tube, 1x drivetrain if possible. A new person also may begin to upgrade this bike thinking it'll increase their performance, but as I mentioned already, if you're willing to dump that much money into an old bike like this, you might as well just save that money and get something a little bit newer and nicer. So is it worth buying and upgrading a vintage mountain bike? I hope this video gave you enough information to answer that question for yourself. In my personal case, I'm still kind of on the fence about it. While I had an absolute blast working on this bike and learning more about it, I don't find myself riding it enough to justify the amount of money I spent on it. Also, for mountain biking purposes, Teal Steel is not that useful. It's a 1x6 drivetrain with a 36-tooth chainring, so climbing isn't good. The brakes are pretty terrible for going fast downhill. You need a lot of gripping power to stop that bike from a high speed, so going fast downhill is kind of terrifying as well. And when given the choice between this bike and my newer, nicer bikes, 95% of the time I'm going to grab the new bike. It's sad to say, but I'm probably going to put Teal Steel up for sale soon and let it bring a lot of joy to someone else's life. If you are interested in purchasing this bike, leave a comment down below, let me know, and maybe we can work something out, especially if you're in the Texas area. I don't really want to ship it. Bonus, I still have all the original parts I took off. You're getting pretty much 2 bikes in one. What do you guys think of vintage mountain bikes and Teal Steel in particular? Do you like what I did with this bike, or am I a complete garbage person? Let me know down in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you did like the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and consider subscribing if you aren't already. A new adventure on wheels awaits you weekly, and we'd love to have you here. Thank you so much for watching, and until next week, stay rowdy within reason.
Hey, creepy crawly. Hello. He's coming right at me. Oh God. Don't do it. Please don't hurt me. I'm just kidding. Ooh, here comes a bug. Stay away. Stay away from me.
Well, he's on the tripod. It's a big gross stink bug. Let him pass. Alright. I didn't kill him, I let him pass.